Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the November 18th, 2015 edition of the Midweek Update here on Rasslin with Redbeard. We're back from vacation. And yes, Evolve, you're welcome for that $20 I gave you. Number 5 story of the week is that it has been announced that Ziggy's in Winston-Salem will be shutting down permanently. This is an announcement that caught a lot of people off guard, myself included, because I've been to Ziggy's before in the past. It's a very nice venue in a good part of Winston-Salem, and it's going to be apparently razed to the ground and turned into, I guess, an area for condos or apartments. This is very unfortunate. It's been something of a, I don't want to say a trend, but it really has been a trend here recently, and that a lot of small clubs in North Carolina that have been host to not only rock shows but also to professional wrestling events have been closing. Tremont Music Hall has already announced that they're going to be closing as well towards the end of this year, and it's a bad thing, to be honest with you, because not only are you talking about the loss of jobs and the loss of people being able to make money doing something like club promotion or providing security, being a bartender or whatever else, you're also talking about one less venue for things like professional wrestling and for music and whatnot. Small clubs like this have a big impact on the scene as a whole. And when you have a club that goes belly up like this one is, it really can be something that it's difficult to overcome, because people don't think of this, but there are a lot of little VFW halls and school gymnasiums and stuff like that that won't allow professional wrestling in their venues because of the fact that they've been burned by promoters in the past. They have a bad taste in their mouths, and they just won't let it come back in, even though it may be some professional group that would never, in a million years, do something dastardly like that. But, it's just one of those things to where promotions like PWX and others will have to look elsewhere to run in Winston-Salem in that part of North Carolina. Hopefully they'll be able to find a venue to replace Ziggy's. I don't know that there's one that's going to be immediately available. Again, it's a very unfortunate turn of events. I hate the loss of business, but hate the impact on the scene here as well. Number 4 story of the week is that Billy Gunn has been fired by WWE over PED usage. This is an interesting story because of the fact that it was not a test that was done by WWE. The story goes that Billy was participating in a powerlifting competition, and the sanctioning body over the competition discovered that he had been using PEDs. They determined that because of the elevated testosterone levels that were in his blood. And of course, this is something that they can't allow in developmental or in NXT because of the fact that you're going to be giving off the air that this is something that's permissible. It would be like Major League Baseball saying, okay, it's good for the guys up in the upper echelon of our sport, but you guys in AAA and whatnot, you can't use steroids. Mark McGwire, it's okay. Joe Blow down in minor league Pawtucket or wherever, he can't. That would be the impression that was given off. But the biggest part of this is that's a lasting effect, in my opinion, is the sort of turn of events that the coaches and whatnot that are involved in NXT and in developmental evidently aren't tested as part of the wellness policy that the company employs. That was kind of odd to me because, on one hand, they're company employees. You would think that they would have to be tested, but on the other, they're not on-screen talent. So that's what's always been the perception of the wellness policy, is that it applies to guys like, John Cena, Sheamus, and whatnot. But I guess not so much to guys like Michael Cole or whoever else would be involved in production. So it's kind of a weird story from the angle that a guy got fired for not actually being tested by WWE, but wound up losing his job anyway. He's apparently not been too difficult to find, though, because he's already gotten a lot of independent bookings. Going to be appearing at WrestleCade and a few other areas around here in the Carolinas. So if you're interested in meeting Billy Gunn, keep an eye on the page here. We'll probably have some announcements in regard to where he'll be in the near future as far as the Carolinas and Georgia are anyway. Taking a turn here now for the 3rd story of the week is the announcement that Nick Bockwinkel has passed away. If you're not familiar with Nick Bockwinkel, he was a mainstay in the American Wrestling Association promotion that existed back in the golden era, you might as well go ahead and say, of professional wrestling. He was a 4-time AWA World Heavyweight Champion, also held their Tag Team Championship a number of times. Bockwinkel is widely regarded as having been one of the most intelligent professional wrestlers ever, employed tremendous ring psychology. If you are in any way, shape, or form a student of professional wrestling and you want to understand what ring psychology actually is, you need to go out and watch some Nick Bockwinkel matches, because he was one of the best of all time when it comes to actually being able to employ things that made the showmanship or the kayfabe mentality, if you want to call it that, of professional wrestling totally disappear. He would make you think that he was involved in a genuine fight, and that this was a situation where he was having to meticulously and strategically take apart his opponent. And that was a mainstay of wrestling of that era, and he was influential in putting that in the forefront. So a lot of what we see on TV today doesn't reflect that, unfortunately. But he was a great storyteller, great athlete, great professional wrestler. He was a WWE Hall of Famer. He was a member of the 2007 class of the WWE Hall of Fame, and leaves a tremendous legacy. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get the show tribute that someone like Dusty Rhodes would have, because he was not a mainstay in the popular culture era, or popular culture scene, I guess you could say, as far as wrestling is concerned. But definitely going to be a big loss in terms of the community as a whole. Rest in peace, Nick Bockwinkel, dead at 80 years old. Number 2 story of the week is Seth Rollins' injury in the WWE World Heavyweight Championship tournament. I'll tell you what, this is a very unfortunate story from the standpoint of Seth Rollins, because the man was on a tremendous roll, and wouldn't you know it, a terrible injury hits him. The injury took place while the company was overseas on a European tour. It was during a match with Kane. He was attempting to give Kane a sunset flip powerbomb off the second rope, and when he came down, his right knee literally just came apart. It was a scary looking injury. You can see photos of it online. The angle that his leg takes is very unnatural, obviously, but he basically tore everything there was to tear in the knee, and he's going to be out 6 to 9 months recovering from surgery. Like I mentioned, very unfortunate turn of events for him, because he had been a long-standing champion, and from the rumors and whatnot that have been posted online, he was evidently going to hold the championship for at least a little while longer and be involved in top-level feuds all the way up to WrestleMania of next year. Still, it's a killer in terms of momentum, and you just hope that his career will be able to rebound from it. But unfortunately, here again, the company did have to strip him of the title, which is an interesting historical fact, because of the fact that the two main companies in North America, that being WWE and TNA, I know some people would argue that maybe Ring of Honor or PWG might be in that position, but we're going to go and give it to TNA. Both don't have champions. That's very much unheard of. I cannot think of a time in history when, for example, like a WWF and a WCW, or a WCW and whoever else, or WWF and whoever else, didn't have champions. That's one of those little tidbit facts that I'm sure will wind up on Jeopardy at some point in the future. But at any rate, as a result of him being stripped of the title, they've been having a heavyweight championship tournament. And we're getting down to the final 4 here. Started off with 16 guys. Now we've got Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Alberto Del Rio, and Kevin Owens in the final 4. The final 2 rounds will be held at SummerSlam this weekend in Atlanta, Georgia. That pay-per-view should be pretty good, and headlined hopefully by what will be the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match. Have to wait and see. Not sure who it'll wind up being, but kind of have the impression that this is Roman Reigns' coming out party, so we'll have to see where it goes. And the number 1 story of the week is our preview of the Survivor Series pay-per-view happening this weekend in Atlanta, Georgia. Survivor Series, historically speaking, is one of the bigger shows of the year. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of the old school stylings that happened at Survivor Series, that being the Survivor Series matches, have been thrown out the wayside this year. A lot of the planning, as we mentioned in the second story of the week here, had to be thrown out the window because of the fact that Seth Rollins' injury just took away a lot of the creative opportunities they had in terms of putting those Survivor Series matches out there. Survivor Series matches, if you weren't aware, traditionally are 5-on-5 elimination tag team matches. This year, there are none. I think that they're doing basically just a tag team match as the only Survivor Series match. And that's going to be the Brothers of Destruction, Kane and Undertaker versus, it was announced in some of the SmackDown spoilers, hashtag spoiler, if you don't want to hear this, then too bad, against Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. That's going to be an interesting match from the standpoint that it's maybe going to continue to pass the torch to Bray Wyatt and him being some top-level heel later on, but it's getting to a point to where Bray and the Wyatts have lost to so many people that it's like, okay, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense anymore. They just don't have anything going for them, unfortunately, and that's totally in the realm of creative and totally the fault of creative, I should say, and the booking decisions that have been made therein. But other than that, as we mentioned in the second story there, you'll see the finals, the semifinals of the final round of the World Heavyweight Championship Tournament. That'll be, again, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens, and Alberto Del Rio. Alberto Del Rio and Reigns will be in one match, and then you'll have Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose in the other. It's interesting that they decided to split off the two top titles other than the World Heavyweight Championship and not have them face each other. Of course, it would have been a heel-on-heel type scenario, which would have been more interesting to me, though, because you would have had a pretty interesting angle in that you'd have had Del Rio and Owens in one match and two former Shield members, Reigns and Ambrose, in the other. Could have gone that way and been interesting for a number of different reasons, but it is what it is. Other than those matches and the tag team match, you've got the Divas Championship that will be defended, and that's pretty much it. There are only 5 announced matches for Survivor Series, so you got to hope that those matches for the World Heavyweight Championship Tournament wind up being worth the price of admission, and they probably will, because this past week's edition of Raw was very good. A lot of the quarterfinal matches were top-notch. Not a bad thing to say there about any of them. The Owens and Neville match was particularly good, as was Cesaro and Roman Reigns. The only one that didn't really do anything for me was Kalisto versus Alberto Del Rio. And they looked as though they were just trying to put Del Rio over as much as possible because he beat the snot out of Kalisto there for 10 minutes more or less. But that's going to be a good show, something to look forward to. But there are also a number of local events happening this weekend. So we're to the point of the show where we'd like to give you an idea of what's happening in our part of the world as far as independent shows go. There are 7 events that we're aware of, including one that's going to be promoted by Omega Championship Wrestling. They are having Loco and Joko 3 up in North Carolina. A lot of top-level independent talent on that show. Guys like Trevor Lee, Brad Attitude, a host of others, Shane Helms, and some of the traditional or the classic Omega Powers will be there as well. So let's go ahead and roll those posters, get you caught up, and we'll be back to finish up the program. Alright folks, there you have it. Our rundown of the events that are happening in our part of the world for this coming weekend. If you're a promoter, a wrestler, or in some way involved in a wrestling promotion, and you didn't see your poster in that segment, it's because we didn't know about it. We try to do our best to peruse social media and to keep everyone abreast of what's happening in this part of the world, but we do miss things. That said, if you are anyone who's involved with a promotion and you'd like to have your poster featured here on the show or on the Facebook page, please drop us a line. We'd be glad to put it out there for you. Promoting local events is a big part of what we do here on Wrestle with Redbeard. We appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoy the show, go ahead and click that like button. That lets us know that we're doing a good job. And if you really enjoy the kind of content we've got on the channel here, go ahead and hit subscribe. That'll let you know whenever we've updated the channel with something new, either match videos, weekly update videos, or the big Wrestle with Redbeard main show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back next week.